I hate Pride Month. And not because I care about who you want to love, but because I'm sick of the corporate pandering. I'm sick of seeing all-age drag shows where bearded men wrapped in fishnets and BDSM outfits are grinding their man bulges into the faces of children. I am sick of society pushing children to transition. I am tired of men dressing up as women to victimize other women in sports, public restrooms, locker rooms, and life. We have pride flags painted on our sidewalks. They're flying from our embassies. They're hanging in our schools. And yet a group that claims to be so deeply marginalized has an entire month dedicated to one of the 7 deadly sins. And I'm supposed to tolerate it? What once was a call for people to just mind their business and love who they want to love has turned into a campaign to force people, regardless of religious beliefs, to accept a certain way of life that they don't want to accept, and a trend to destroy childhood innocence in an attempt to validate sick adults, and I want no part of it. The only rainbow I celebrate is God's promise, and the only pride I want to have is the pride for my country.
We're having this interview in Pride Month, and so what are my thoughts about Pride Month? Well, the first thing I would say is that you should be very careful what you name things. And pride is not a virtue. And I've brought that up with people before, and their objection always is, well, they don't really mean pride. People are just trying to affirm their own identities. And, you know, fair enough, I suppose, to some degree, but that was the name that was chosen, and that's the name that stuck. And pride is a cardinal sin, and there's a reason for that. And the reason is that pride means something like stubborn refusal to change when evidence of error is accruing, and it's not a good thing. There's a real tinge of narcissism, sexual narcissism, about the whole pride spectacle. And, you know, do people have the right to express their sexuality the way they see fit? To some degree, if it's consensual and among adults, but generally among human beings with any degree of civilized comportment whatsoever, it's a pretty damn private affair. We tend to be private in our sexual conduct as a species, and so this isn't exactly private. And it's also the case that identities based on something as narrow as sexual desire, let's say, aren't identities at all. They're pronouncements of subjection to instinctual whim. And I also have a real problem with the idea of the LGBT plus, etc. community, because it's not a community. And it's especially not a community right now because the trans pushing, gender affirming butchers and liars primarily target young people whose most likely outcome on the sexual front is homosexuality. So the trans gender affirming butchers and liars are differentially destroying the youthful gay community. And that's not a community by any stretch of the imagination. And there's a famous conservative thinker, Chesterton, and Chesterton has a concept, the fence. And Chesterton's fence is based on the observation that if you're walking somewhere you don't understand and you come across a fence, you should probably not tear it down because you don't know what it keeps in or out. And the pride movement has torn down a lot of fences, and maybe some of those fences needed to go, but all of them didn't need to go. And there's plenty of monsters coming out to play now. And I would say that's especially true on the transgender affirming side. And that's why we're seeing this butchery in the medical community, abetted by idiot allies and driven by greed. And those aren't the worst monsters that exist. And so if you tear down enough fences, you're going to find out what they're for. Now, I read recently, like this week, that support for gay marriage is plummeting. Right. It's like, well, keep pushing. You're going to lose everything you've gained. And I'm not celebrating that at all. That's not the point at all. But like, I'm just done with it. I don't like the flag. I think it's a piece of idiocy. I don't understand why it changes every bloody week. I don't know who makes those decisions. I don't like the acronym and all the mystery surrounding it. I don't like the fact that the LGBT agenda, whatever that is, increasingly dominates the school system. I don't like the fact that it's targeted at young people. And I think the surgery, the gender affirming care movement, I think it is Nazi Auschwitz level awful. That it should not only stop, and now, as they've decided to do in the UK and in most places in Europe, but I think all the people that were involved in the surgical transition of minors should be imprisoned. So there's a lot of house cleaning to do on the pride side of things. And I don't believe that a celebration of an identity that encapsulates something like 3% of the population before it became a fad is inclusive in any manner whatsoever. So I think pretty much all of it's a lie. And it's a dangerous lie. And it's a lie with real monsters hovering on the edges. And so, enough. As far as I'm concerned, enough pride in the churches, enough pride in the bloody banks. I don't want to walk into the Bank of Nova Scotia and be celebrating pride. It's like I want to go and put my money in or take my money out without any political idiocy and certainly without any celebration of sexuality. I don't know what the hell the banks think they're doing. And the churches, well, that's just for the churches to be flying pride flags. It's like pride is the cardinal Christian sin. Right. So what the hell? What's going on with the flags exactly? What exactly are you celebrating here? Tolerance. It's like, yeah, tolerance of vice is not a virtue and pride is a vice.
For your religion, for your beliefs.
We have reached a place in the West where people are demanding that we include activities and events that celebrate Pride Month while holding a double standard and saying that religion can't be celebrated in schools. Now, look, I'm not religious. And if I was religious, I would understand the idea of not including Christian, Islamic, Scientologist prayers in school. Because right now, for better or worse, the public sphere is a secular place. So as a result, all of this baffles me because Pride Month is now being put in front of kids for the sake of inclusion. But again, if I was gay, and I'm not, I wouldn't want to go to school and celebrate an entire month where people are celebrating my sexuality. That'd be weird. And honestly, when it comes down to it, the fervor behind LGBT media is feeling a hell of a lot more religious than anything coming out of Christianity or Islam.